there she is.
Do you need me to do the numbers? Do you need me to do the weather numbers? If you can help me, we'll be out. Yeah. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Stand by.
On the 25th of this month, NASA astronaut Dr. Jessica Meir will launch on a Russian rocket with a crew headed for the International Space Station. This is going to be her first space mission, and we're especially honored to speak with her today, as she is a marine biologist who earned her doctorate right here in San Diego at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography. And Dr. Meir, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you? Yeah, that's right. I'm here in Star City at the Cosmonaut Training Center. We've been here for several weeks, and I've been here off and on really for over the past year and a half training.
And part of your training, you have to be able to speak Russian.
Yes, that's right. Everybody on the space station has to speak both Russian and English. So all of our training over here for the Soyuz spacecraft and for the Russian segment of the space station are conducted in Russian. But I really like studying language, so that's all part of the fun for me.
Excellent. And it's not the only language you speak. You speak, what else do you, other than English, Russian, and one other, I think?
I've studied French and I speak Swedish as well. My mom's from Sweden, so that was a useful one to learn for me.
That's awesome. So tell us about the mission. What is the purpose of the mission? How long are you going to be up there?
We will be on board for about 6 months. That's the average duration of a space station mission these days. And we will be conducting all kinds of scientific investigations, ranging from how our blood vessels and arteries are actually stiffening and thickening in response to the spaceflight environment, trying to understand effects why on all of our different physiological systems, to combustion experiments, to protein crystal growth. There's even a Bio Fabrication Facility up there now, which hopefully will be able to test out and will enable us to grow bioartificial tissues and organs on the space station. So a wealth of different scientific questions that we'll be investigating, as well as maintaining and operating all the systems on board the space station. So when we have anything that breaks, like a toilet or we need to change a light bulb, we can't call a plumber or an electrician. We have to be able to do all that stuff ourselves as well. We'll be conducting spacewalks, so anytime we need to upgrade something or repair something on the outside of the space station, we have to do that in the spacesuit. We fly the robotic arm, the Canada arm on the space station, which we use, again, to move things around for spacewalks as well. So the cool thing about the job is that every day is really different. As a scientist, I'm really excited about contributing to that scientific data set and then doing all the other daily activities as well.
And as a scientist, no doubt you're extremely well prepared. How do you prepare on the more, I guess, human side in terms of the excitement of getting on a rocket for the first time and flying out into outer space? I mean, what do you do? How do you have, I guess, the courage inside to do something like that?
I think the biggest answer is the amazing training that we receive here on the ground. The teams in Houston, all over NASA, and here in Russia as well, they prepare us for really any situation. And these procedures and responses are really so ingrained in us by this time that we don't really have to let feelings or emotions get in the way. You know, we just do what we've been trained for and we get the job done.
And our time is already almost up. What are you most looking forward to? And let me ask you, what are you taking with you that's going to, I guess, be kind of your anchor to feeling like you're at home?
I have a few things from home that remind me of some of my family and loved ones, and I have some significant items from places that I'm affiliated with as well. There is definitely a Scripps Institution Oceanography flag, as well as some other items from San Diego. So stay tuned, look out for those.
We're very excited about it. Congratulations on your upcoming trip on the 25th, and hopefully we'll be able to talk to you again, perhaps when you're on the space station. Have a great trip.
That would be wonderful. Thank you very much.
2013. So
And
she's
she is with
completed
us
all
now,
the
Randy, so you can go ahead and start your interview.
Hi, Jessica. This is Randy Siegel from radio station WSTU and WPSL in Stuart, Florida. How are you today?
Hi, Randy. It's great talking to you. I'm doing well, thanks.
That's terrific. Well, I imagine in just a few weeks you'll be doing a whole lot better as you head off to the International Space Station on your first space flight. What are your thoughts on going into space for the first time?
You know, it's something that I've been dreaming about my entire life since I was 5 years old. So at this point, it's still a little bit surreal that it's actually going to happen. The nice thing is, over the past 6 years in training, I've really reinforced all of those skills that we've learned all along the way and really ready for the mission. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what it's going to feel like that first time and having that nonstop weightlessness. And, you know, as talking to my friends and colleagues that are up there now and that have been up there before, it's really difficult to put into words how it feels. So I'm just really excited to experience that for the first time myself.
Well, when you talk about weightlessness, obviously you've been in the, quote, vomit comet, unquote, and that's always been a lot of fun. I had the pleasure of doing it one time. And how do you feel as far as weightless goes? Do you have any problems in weightlessness yourself when experiencing that?
Well, so far I haven't. I've actually been fortunate enough to be on the Vomit Comet several times before, and I've always felt great, but I think it's a lot different when it's continuous instead of just those short bouts. So I'll have to let you know. I'm very optimistic that I'll adapt to it quickly. I hope that's the case.
Yep, you've got quite an interesting crew going uphill with you, don't you? You've got the spaceflight participant from United Arab Emirates.
Yes, it's a very exciting time, and it's, I think, an amazing opportunity. It's such an international crew. We have a very experienced Russian cosmonaut on board as the commander, and then, as you mentioned, the very first astronaut from the United Arab Emirates. So I am really honored to be part of this truly historic mission.
You're going to have probably the largest contingent of astronauts on board the International Space Station since the Space Shuttle days. Will that present any problems as far as space or the like goes for you?
Yeah, so there will be 9 of us on board. Typically, we have 6 people on the space station at most times. There will be 9 of us on board for about an 8-day period. So really only a very short part of the mission. We'll have 9 people up there. It will present some unique challenges. We actually only have sleeping quarters for 6 astronauts. So a few people will actually be in a kind of camp out phase. But we all know each other well. We've all worked with each other before, and that's just part of the mission. So we're excited for that opportunity.
Yep. You apparently, as you said, wanted to be an astronaut for almost your entire life, and you were selected in 2013. Your academic career kind of sets you up for this space flight, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it does. Everybody brings a unique background and perspective to the table, and that's something that I really like about the astronaut office these days, is there's a lot of diversity. So you still have the military background jet pilots like you had in the early days, but you also have medical doctors, scientists of all types. And I think for me, studying the physiology of animals in extreme environments in remote locations like the Antarctic, that's one of the things that really prepared me for this type of work that we do on the space station. Working in these environments where you're faced with both a mental and a physical challenge has been part of my career all the way through. And I think it's really the epitome of that, serving as an astronaut on the space station.
Do you feel that you'll be making any spacewalks along this mission? Have you been training with it?
Yes, I've been fully trained and certified in conducting spacewalks, and there are a lot of spacewalks that will be occurring during my mission. So the assignments are being worked out actually right now. There's a very good chance that I'll be going out the door, and that's really the one thing that I've been looking forward to more than anything. So I hope that happens.
What's your feeling about potentially being on board the station when we have the first U.S. commercial crew flights going to the International Space Station?
Yeah, it's an amazing time right now. We have all of these different vehicles being built, and I'll be launching on the Soyuz. Hopefully, we'll see flights from SpaceX and Boeing in the very near future. It's a great time to be an astronaut on board the space station.
Well, we want to wish you from here a safe flight, Godspeed, and may the force be with you.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning from Maine.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for talking with us today. I know you've told us before that you've wanted to go to space since you were a very young child. So how are you feeling now that that trip is so close?
It's a little bit surreal. You're right. I was saying it since I was a 5-year-old growing up in northern Maine. So now being on this end, it's been a lot of work, and I'm very excited for this dream to actually come true.
And what are you looking forward to most about living and working on the space station?
As a scientist, I'm incredibly excited to be participating as a subject and an operator in the diversity of scientific investigations that we have on board the space station. Everything ranging from human physiology, combustion experiments, protein crystal growth, you name it, we're doing that kind of science up there. And that's really this unique environment that we have in space where if you can eliminate the gravity-driven effects, then you can start to begin other factors that might be covered up otherwise. I'm also really looking forward to hopefully going for a spacewalk. There will be a lot of spacewalks during our mission. That's always been the thing that's been in my mind since this childhood dream.
And have you been thinking about what you might think when you see Maine from the space station for the first time, or from space?
I think seeing the Earth in general is going to be really perspective and life-changing, I think for two main reasons. First of all, just that appreciation for how fragile and special the planet is, our planet Earth. We only have one of them, and how we really need to do our best to protect it. And secondly, just to think about what it means for us as humans and what really an insignificant role we play in the solar system, in the universe in general. And from what I've heard from various people that have been up there already, it really does change your life. Even knowing that, thinking about what you might expect, you just can't really describe it and how that changes you as a person.
And I know there's a limited amount of things you can bring with you to the space station. So what are you bringing with you? Anything that reminds you of Maine?
Yes, absolutely. I have some personal effects from loved ones and family members that I'm flying. And of course, there are some Maine flags and some other items from Maine that I'll be flying proudly. So you'll have to keep looking out for those. And eventually, those items should be making their way back to Maine. So stay tuned.
You speak often of growing up in northern Maine and Caribou. Tell me what you anything about that experience of growing up in northern Maine that's prepared you for this next experience. And
I think for me, growing up in a place that was pretty remote, had a lot of trees around, a lot of nature, I think that really ignited in me this passion for exploration and this appreciation for nature, and really this scientific curiosity in trying to learn more and understand more about the natural world around us. That was something that got me interested in my previous career as a physiologist and a biologist, and of course, the same is true in this role as an astronaut now.
I've been following you on Instagram, and we've seen you describe yourself as a foodie. So what do you think about the food that you'll be experiencing up on the space station?
We actually have quite a wide variety of food items on the space station now. There is a food lab at NASA in the Johnson Space Center, which develops new foods all the time. We also have access to foods from the Russians and our international partners as well. And I'll be participating in a food physiology experiment too, looking at some of the newer few items and some of the different nutrients and seeing how that helps us maintain our fitness and keep us healthy while on board. So I'm excited about sampling all of those things.
There'll be many people across the U.S. and especially here in Maine watching as you're going through this experience. Do you have any message in particular for your fellow Mainers and the children, especially who will be watching?
Well, first of all, I'm really just excited to share this adventure with everybody. This is certainly nothing that I could have accomplished on my own, and it really started back to the foundations of my childhood and my education right there in the state of Maine. And I think, especially for the children watching, it is really too important. It is very important to remember it doesn't matter where you come from or what specific aspects of your past are there. You can really do whatever it is that you want, whatever it is that you set your mind to, as long as you put the work in and you remain dedicated to that.
Well, thank you so much, and best of luck with everything, and we'll look forward to seeing you when you visit Maine next.
Okay, thanks very much. Can't wait to go back to Maine after space.
Hi, Jessica. I'm Marcy Frumker from the International Women's Air and Space Museum in Cleveland, Ohio. And I wanted to know, since this is your first mission in space, is there something that you're most looking forward to on this flight?
Hi, Marcy. It's great talking to you today. I think two things that I'm most looking forward to are, number one, with my background in science, are contributing as a subject and an operator to the wide variety of scientific experiments that we'll be doing on board the space station. Everything from looking about how our physiology is affected by the microgravity environment to looking how flames burn. Even flames burn differently in space without gravity. Secondly, I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to go out the hatch of the space station. Doing a spacewalk has been something that I've dreamed about my entire life, and what that must feel like when you're in your own self-contained little spacecraft of the spacesuit and looking back on the Earth. There are a lot of spacewalks that will be happening during my mission, so there's a very good chance that that will happen.
Excellent. And at the International Women's Air and Space Museum, we try to encourage girls to get interested in STEM education. Wondering, did you have a particular mentor as a young girl who helped encourage your interest in the STEM fields?
I had a lot of incredible mentors all throughout the way, starting with my parents who were very supportive and got me interested in nature and the world around me. A lot of really memorable teachers that stood out to me, some of my biology teachers in particular, that really instigated and instilled that love of science and that scientific curiosity in me. I was very fortunate to have those amazing mentors continue all throughout my graduate school and postdoctoral career as well. And I think the difference was for me that these were people who were not only at the top of their field, but they were also people that cared about me as an individual and as a person. You know, they weren't just concerned about the science. They wanted to make sure that I was happy and taken care of as well. And to me, that's really the ultimate way to go about being a mentor.
Great. That sort of goes into my next question. What did you learn about yourself living and working in extreme environments like Antarctica, Belize, and being on the Neemo mission that will help you prepare for this mission?
I think one of the most important things to remember when you're in any kind of environment like that is the value of teamwork and how valuable it can be and how interesting it can be to have people represented from all different diverse backgrounds and experiences. You know, to me, that's the best way to solve any problem. If you have 5 people on a team and they're all exactly the same, or if you had 5 people on a team and they all had vastly different backgrounds and experiences and previous careers, there's a better way to solve that problem when you have different minds working on it. And so understanding each other and on the team, taking into account everybody's strengths and the fact that we all have weaknesses as well, and understanding that that is all part of the process.
And can you share any advice that any of the other women astronauts, like Christina Cook, who's currently aboard station, have offered to you to prepare for your mission?
Well, you know, I don't think it really is any different for me whether the advice comes from a woman or a man on board the space station. We're all trained in exactly the same way, and we all do the job up there now. And that's what's so amazing and unique about this time period. All the struggles that we did face as women before us, we are in a new place now where we are all doing the same job up there. And to me, you know, it really doesn't make a difference. And it's incredible how far we've come.
And can you tell me what's the most difficult aspect of your training?
I think the most difficult aspect of our training as astronauts is learning how to do spacewalks. You are in this incredibly heavy and cumbersome suit, which weighs over 400 pounds when you're in it, and your body is sort of contorted out like this. And it is very, very challenging, both physically and mentally, with the problems that you have to face and encounter. Again, it's probably one of the most rewarding things that we do because at least on the training on the ground, you know, that's when you really feel like you're an astronaut, when you're in that spacesuit looking around at the person down there in the spacesuit with you. So probably the most challenging thing we do, but also perhaps most rewarding.
And NASA's working on putting women and other men into the moon program with Artemis. Were you inspired by the Apollo program, and do you think you could be the first woman on the moon now?
I absolutely was inspired, and I think everybody all around the world and for decades now have been inspired by what the Apollo astronauts accomplished and what NASA accomplished throughout that program. I would love to be the first woman on the moon, and we'll see how all of that plays out, but it's an incredibly exciting time that we'll finally be going back.
And do you have any advice for young girls who might be interested in careers in aerospace?
Biggest piece of advice is to make sure that they are doing what they're passionate about, and then just to remember that anything is possible with the right dedication and hard work behind it.
Great. Good luck on your mission, and we'll be following along.
Thank you.
Hi Jessica, god morgon från Sverige. Hur mår du?
God morgon. Jag mår bra. Jättekul att prata med dig idag.
You have dreamt of this since you were a little girl. What is your advice to small girls around the world dreaming about going to space like you?
I think the biggest piece of advice that I have for all young people growing up and adults too is just make sure that you are following your heart and doing what it is you're most passionate about. I really do believe that that's the only way to really thrive and be successful at something, and most importantly, to be happy doing it.
Do you think you will change as a person after this?
I do think that there will be a perspective shift and a bit of a change after being in space for me. And I think that is, I've heard that a lot from previous astronauts before me when they look back at the Earth for that first time and they see everything they've known, all separated from that, and understanding what that means in terms of appreciating and taking good care of our home planet, realizing how special and fragile it is and that we really need to do our best to protect it. And then also how insignificant really we are as a human species in the scope of the solar system and in the universe as well. I think that really will be life-changing.
Have you gotten any good advices from astronauts who've already been at ISS?
Yes, I do. We get a lot of advice from those that go before us. And I think one of the best pieces of advice that I've been trying to remember is to really make sure to enjoy and appreciate each step of the journey. Sometimes, like anything in life, especially one that involves a lot of hard work and preparation, it's very easy to just get caught up in the moment and doing the things that you're doing in order and thinking about that next thing instead of just really appreciating it is what you're doing right now. I think it's a bit trite, but I think it's very true about what people say about how important the process is. It's just important. The journey is just as important as the end goal.
What will you miss the most from Earth's life?
I think the thing that I will miss the most is nature. So yesterday, actually, I went to a botanical garden and walked around for a few hours, just appreciating all of the different plants and trees and flowers around, and the feeling of the breeze on your skin and smelling that fresh air. Of course, that's something that I won't have for 6 months. And since I enjoy nature so much and like to spend as much free time as possible out in nature, I think that will be what I miss the most.
What will be the most riskful mission while in space?
The riskiest thing that we do on board the International Space Station is probably doing spacewalks. There are quite a few spacewalks scheduled during my mission. And of course, that is when you are outside in the spacesuit, which is really your own little life support system, your self-contained spacecraft. And we need to make sure that all those systems are very well maintained and be very careful in the way that we do things, since there is a lot of risk involved with those activities. Luckily, NASA is very safety conscious, and especially with our training regime, we don't anticipate any problems.
What special personal belongings will you bring to ISS?
I have a few things from family members that I'd like to fly for them, and some special things for me as well. And of course, special things for the places and affiliations that I have. So of course, there's a Swedish flag among other items from Sweden. So you'll have to stay tuned and watch out for those.
What do you want to say to your Swedish fans back home?
Hej stan, och tack så mycket, and I'm really looking forward to sharing this adventure with everybody.
You're going to do a lot of experiments in space. Is anything in particular you look forward to?
The things that I'm most looking forward to are contributing to all the different scientific experiments that we're doing on board the International Space Station. As a scientist, I'm very excited to be able to help out all of the different scientists on the ground that have been working so hard to fly their experiments. And then, like we just talked about, going for a spacewalk is what I've dreamed about really my entire life. So those are probably the things I'm looking forward to most.
Okay, one last question. If you have a chance to go to Mars, would you do it?
Sure. I think that's a little bit away from us right now. But once NASA has laid out the plan to go to Mars and bring astronauts back safely, I'd be happy to do it.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. We wish you luck, the best of luck. Lycka till från Sverige.
Tusen tack.
Jessica, this is Bill Green. Can you hear me?
Hi, Bill. I've got you loud and clear. How about me?
Bill Green, can you hear me?
Hi, Bill. We've got you loud and clear.
Well, let's start our interview then. Joining me now is astronaut Jessica Meir, who will be blasting off in just 3 weeks. Jessica, my first question for you is, how excited are you, and how do you keep a professional, demure as you get ready to blast off in space and do all that good science?
That's a great question. I am extremely excited. As you know, this is something I've been dreaming about my entire life. I think one of the ways we keep it in check is just through the impeccable training that we've received over the past 6 years now, both in Houston, all over NASA, and here in Russia as well. We really go back to all of that training and all of those procedures, and then I think that helps us maintain that professionalism and that understanding of how to get the job done.
You're a physiologist. Tell me about a couple of the experiments you'll be doing. I'm particularly interested in the human eye.
Yeah, so we will be investigating everything ranging from how the spaceflight environment does affect vision. Just like you mentioned, that is one of the hot topics right now, as we have seen some changes in vision and some changes with the retinal layer of the eye from spaceflight. So we want to make sure that we can still bring astronauts back safely and healthy. And of course, when we go to other destinations, like when we go back to the moon and when we go to Mars, we need to make sure that our astronauts are able to do all the work that they need to do. So that is a hot topic right now. We're trying to understand what is going on with those processes with our vision and the morphology of the eye. We're also looking at our blood vessels. One of the things that we found is that arteries, so for example, our carotid artery is getting thicker and stiffer. The walls of the vessel itself are getting thicker and stiffer. And that is equivalent to about 20 to 30 years of aging here on the ground in only a 6-month flight. So pretty significant. Again, we need to make sure that we understand all of those factors to keep astronauts healthy and safe and to enable future long duration missions.
Briefly, what is an alpha magnetic spectrometer? And I know you have to do a spacewalk to fix one. Are you nervous about that at all?
Right. The AMS, the Alpha Magnetic Spectrometer, is an instrument that is mounted on the outside of the space station. So it is a particle physics detector that is measuring high energy radiation from distant stars. So it is looking at things, looking for evidence of dark matter and antimatter in the universe. So pretty top-notch, cutting-edge work, and it is an amazing instrument. It wasn't ever supposed to be accessed by astronauts or fixed by spacewalks at all, but unfortunately, one of the pumps in the thermal control system has broken. So now we do have to do some pretty intense spacewalks in order to make sure that we can repair that instrument and allow it to continue to gather the incredible data that it has been. So those EVAs, those spacewalks will happen during my mission. So I'm excited to play a role during all of that.
What personal items are you taking with you?
I have many things that are important to me and important to my family members and loved ones, and of course with all of the affiliations, universities, and places I've lived. So you better believe there are quite a few items from Maine on board, flags and that kind of thing. So stay tuned for those. Stay tuned for those photos, and those items will make their way back to Maine in the future as well.
What will you be doing with your spare time in space? Photography, perhaps?
I'm not sure there's going to be a whole lot of spare time. This is going to be a really busy increment with all the scientific objectives that we have, all the spacewalks that are planned. But I probably will spend most of my free time in the cupola or at the various windows looking out and appreciating the beauty of our home planet and trying to take some good photographs of it as well so that I can really share that with all of the world.
We'll be following you very closely. You're taking a little piece of all of us with you, and we wish you the very best of luck, and we can't wait to follow your mission in space.
Thank you so much, Bill. I'm really excited to share it with you and with everybody in Maine.
Hi, Jessica. This is Ellen in Los Angeles. Do you hear us?
Hello, yes, I can hear you.
Okay, now
Okay, great. We're coming to you in about 30 seconds.
All right, in about 20 seconds, you'll be speaking with DeMarco and Suzanne here from LA, okay?
All right.
Yeah. Stand by.
Well. All rise. Premieres CBS Monday, September 23rd.
It is a job that... Stand by. Here comes your intro, Miss Meir.
Not in go.
DeMarco and Suzanne, stand by.
And we are joined by NASA astronaut Jessica Meir, who's talking to us live from Star City, Russia. Good morning, Jessica.
Good morning, LA.
And of course, we're on a delay, but this will be, your first time going into space. Did you ever dream that you would make it here?
I've dreamed about going to space and being an astronaut since I was 5 years old, but of course, like everybody knows, it's a very small chance of it happening. So I didn't necessarily think that that dream would ever come true. It still is a little bit surreal right now, thinking that it finally will.
All right, Jessica, so tell us about the mission that you'll be on, and I just want to know, how does one even pack and prepare to go to space for quite some time?
I'll be going to the International Space Station for a 6-month mission, and that's a typical mission for us right now. It's a very interesting place to live and work. We're up there with the Russian Space Agency, the Japanese, Canadian, and European space agencies as well. So very diverse and international crew. We are conducting experiments ranging from everything, including human physiology to combustion experiments. Even flames burn differently in space, looking at protein crystal growth. Really, all types of science are represented up there. We spend a lot of time maintaining the space station as well. If the toilet breaks or if a light bulb needs to be changed, we can't call a plumber or an electrician. We need to be able to do that ourselves as well. We do spacewalks in order to upgrade systems and do repairs on the outside of the space station. So really, every day is different. It's incredibly active and exciting, and doing a different thing every day.
Jessica, I talked about packing. Are there some things or some items that you take with you to space? Do you take any pictures with you, any memorabilia?
Yeah, luckily we have an amazing support team at NASA and in Russia, and they do a lot of that packing and pre-positioning for us. So for example, all of the food items that I'll be eating up there, all of my clothes that I'll be wearing for the entire duration of my mission are already up there. They were launched even before I did. So we do carry some small amount of personal effects with us, so we can select a few items that are important to us or important to family members. So I'll be bringing some of those things to represent some of those loved ones, and also some of the places where I've lived and worked, state flags, university emblems, and that kind of thing.
Thank you so much, Jessica. And you mentioned university. You've spent some time here in Southern California. We'll all be rooting for you up there.
Thanks very much. My brother and his family actually live in LA, and some other cousins as well. So it's great to talk to everybody there.
Good luck. Thank you.
Yes, enjoy your mission. We're all rooting for you.
Okay, you can get. Can you hear her?
I cannot hear anything, no.
Chelsea can't hear her yet.
I can't hear anything.
Oh, Chelsea can't hear anything.
The line isn't muted or anything. Oh, I can hear. Great.
Oh, you hear now. She can
Hello?
hear.
Hello,
Hi, is this Jessica?
this is Jessica.
Fantastic. So I'm Chelsea Goad from Space.com, and I'm here with Jessica Meir, who will be launching for the first time on September 25th for a 6-month mission aboard the International Space Station as a flight engineer for Expedition 61 and 62. Thank you so much for speaking with me, Jessica.
Thank you. It's great talking to you today.
Fantastic. So you're just a few short weeks away from launching to the space station for the first time. How do you feel?
I'm incredibly excited. It's something that I've been dreaming and thinking about for my entire life, almost since I was 5 years old. So still a little bit surreal right now to imagine that it's finally coming true.
Absolutely. I can only imagine. So astronauts often talk about the overview effect. Are you looking forward to seeing Earth from space?
Yes, very much. The overview effect is something I've thought a lot about too, for two big reasons. First of all, for understanding and looking back, having that appreciation of how fragile and special our Earth is, how thin that atmosphere layer is, and how we really need to make sure to do our best to protect it. I'm quite a passionate environmentalist already, so I think that's only going to further cement that belief and understanding for me. And second, really that understanding of how insignificant we are as a human species and as a planet in the role of the solar system and beyond in the universe. I think that those two factors are really life-changing for everybody that can see the planet from above.
Absolutely. So if you could pinpoint one thing about this upcoming flight, what are you looking forward to the most?
I think what I'm looking forward to the most is, as a scientist, understanding more about all of these different effects of microgravity in the spaceflight environment and participating as both an operator and a subject for a wide variety of investigations, ranging from how the microgravity environment affects our individual arteries, our blood vessels. We're seeing some changes in astronauts in the thickness and the stiffness of the walls in our arteries, and we need to understand why. It's actually equivalent to 20 to 30 years of aging in just a 6-month mission. So understanding how to bring astronauts back home safely. And of course, that will be pivotal for our longer duration missions in the future when we return to the moon and when we go to Mars. We're doing all kinds of science up there, from those physiology experiments to combustion experiments to protein crystal growth, really any type of science, you name it. Once you remove or eliminate those gravity-driven effects, we can begin to understand more about other factors that might be covered up here on the ground. I'm also really looking forward to the potential to do a spacewalk, since that's really what I've always envisioned myself doing really my whole life.
Of course. So obviously, human spaceflight is advancing pretty rapidly. And with Artemis, the first woman is set to walk on the moon. Do you hope to be that woman?
I would absolutely love to be the first woman on the moon. That would be my ideal mission. It is time for us to go back to the moon, and I think that we will be able to do that in the near future, and I would love to be the one on that mission.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jessica. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Hi, Jessica. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well.
Okay, great. Well, I won't take up too much of your time. I just have a few questions for you. So tell me about the preparation and research that went into this mission.
Well, I feel like I've been preparing for this my entire life since I've dreamed about becoming an astronaut since I was 5. But I was selected as an astronaut in 2013. So I've had about 6 years of intense training, starting with the first 2 years of astronaut basic training. And now in the last 2 years, really focused on the mission at hand, the 6-month mission that I will be participating in on the International Space Station. So everything from familiarizing ourselves with the different scientific investigations that we will be part of up there, to learning how to utilize and perform a spacewalk successfully. And most recently, most of my time has been spent over here in Russia learning how to fly and serve as a co-pilot on the Soyuz rocket.
So how many people are going to be on this mission with you?
I'll be launching with 2 other cosmonauts and astronauts. So an experienced Russian cosmonaut, Oleg Skripochka, will be the commander for our Soyuz spacecraft and our mission. And Hazza Ali Al-Mansouri, the very first astronaut from the United Arab Emirates. So really, this is a historic mission, and I'm really incredibly humbled and honored to be part of it. The 3 of us will launch here in just a few weeks, and there are already 6 people on board the space station. So we'll be joining them there. We'll have 9 people up there for the first 8 days. Then we'll have 6 people up there for about 4 months. And then after that, we may only be down to 3 people, but it will depend what happens with the upcoming launches.
How will you research the effects of human spaceflight?
We have a wide variety of experiments that are going on up there. Some particular ones that will be highlighted on our mission are understanding how our blood vessels are affected by microgravity. So we've been seeing in some recent experiments that the walls of our arteries are actually thickening and stiffening in spaceflight. In just a 6-month mission, we have about 20 years equivalent of aging here on the ground. So we're trying to understand more about that process using ourselves as subjects up there. We are doing experiments on the human eye, trying to understand what's happening with some vision changes that we've seen post-spaceflight. We have experiments looking at how combustion processes are altered in space, how protein crystals grow. We can actually grow bigger and more pure crystals within microgravity without the effects of gravity hindering that process. And that has led to the development of certain drugs. For example, the Japanese Space Agency just developed a drug against Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, which is now in clinical trials. So really, any type of science up there, you name it, we're doing it.
What kind of studies have been done on the past on human spaceflight that helped you prepare for the mission?
So studies in the past have really encompassed all the different disciplines, as I just mentioned. So human physiology, understanding more. One of the ways we have become incredibly a lot smarter about in the past few decades are seeing what happens with our bone density loss and muscle atrophy in space. So as soon as you are in the spaceflight environment without gravity, this constant presence that we have here on the ground, your bones actually start leaching calcium. And then the density in your bones decreases throughout the mission. With the exercise equipment that we have up there now, we have a resistive device that we can use to lift weights. We have a treadmill so that we can run, and also a cycle ergometer. We are actually now pretty much eliminating that muscle atrophy and the bone density losses that we've been seeing in the past.
How will this research that you do help astronauts on future space flights?
All of the data that we'll be collecting, particularly in the human physiology realm and understanding more about how long-duration missions affect us as humans, are really pivotal to our future missions and going back to the moon and going to Mars one day. We need to understand what happens to our bodies in the spaceflight environment in order to make sure that we can get astronauts to these destinations safely and bring them home safely and healthy as well.
How will your research help the public?
So there are several examples of how research in space has also helped life here down on the ground. And some of those have to do with the development of new drugs and protein crystal growth experiments, like we mentioned, and others looking at remote sensing applications as well, and understanding chlorophyll levels from the ocean, for example, or farming use.
And what are you most looking forward to on this on your first space flight?
Jessica, good afternoon. It's Bill Harwood, CBS News at the windy Kennedy Space Center.
Hi, Bill. How are things looking over there? Interesting time, I'm sure, for all of you in Florida.
Oh, absolutely. Doing fine. Thank you very much. I want to talk a little bit about Soyuz. I know you've got a pilot's license, but how tough was it training for the left seat? I'm sure you're fluent in Russian, but that seems like a challenge to me.
It was quite a challenge, but to me, it was also one of the most incredible things that I've experienced. I very much appreciated the role to be in the left seat, which, as you know, is really the co-pilot seat in the Soyuz spacecraft. So we have a lot of responsibilities in helping out the commander, make sure that we get to the space station safely and effectively, and then again on landing and getting back down to the Earth as well. All of that training here in Russia is actually in Russian. And as you mentioned, we do spend a lot of time studying the Russian language as well. Luckily, I really like foreign languages, so that's been part of the fun. But it has been incredibly difficult. First of all, as you mentioned, being a co-pilot, I'm a biologist, a physiologist, so I don't even have that background as a test pilot. And secondly, doing that in Russian is probably the even more challenging part. But it has been an incredible process. There are amazing training teams here that have taught us everything that we need to know. Just last week, we passed all of our exams incredibly successfully, and we are ready to go.
Give me a little thumbnail impression of Oleg Skripochka, your commander.
He's a great guy. He's an experienced cosmonaut, so he brings a lot of knowledge and experience to the table for us. It's my first space flight, and then Hazza Ali Al-Mansouri, the very first astronaut from the United Arab Emirates, is also brand new. He's only been training as an astronaut for a year. So we often look to Oleg for advice and trying to understand, the experiences that he's had and giving us a little bit of that wisdom from what it was like to be on the Soyuz spacecraft before, and then also to be a member on the International Space Station.
I was going to ask you about Mr. Al-Mansouri, your impressions of him, but I think I'll jump ahead just a little bit. NASA is holding open some slots for commercial astronauts in the years ahead aboard the space station. What are your thoughts about non-professionals in general flying on the International Space Station, both from a productivity standpoint, but also a safety standpoint?
Well, I think it's an interesting time, and the spaceflight environment, as you're talking about, is really changing. We are at the cusp of something I think pretty exciting, where we are involving not only international professional space agencies, but also private companies and more of the diverse sector that we have here in the general population. I know that whatever we do, we will do so safely. That's always been the number one priority at NASA, and I've never had any doubt in my mind that that is always in the forefront of everybody's mind. So I think that we will be able to operate things up there no matter who the crew is, and I'm very interested to see how it will all shape out.
Well, you mentioned safety and reliability. Let me ask you about the Soyuz and your impressions of that spacecraft. It's got such a storied history. Of course, you're going to get to fly on it for your very first time. What do you think of it? What's your sense of the safety of that vehicle?
I very much appreciate that I'm flying in the Soyuz spacecraft. As you mentioned, it has a very strong safety and reliability record. We look at it as this very robust vehicle. We know we have a lot of data, a lot of knowledge on how it flies and how the systems work, and we're ready for all of those scenarios. So I am very excited to be on the Soyuz for my first space flight.
Well, I think your launch will be the last one off Yuri Gagarin's pad with people on board. I think that's right. Do you know if the Russians are planning anything special to mark that occasion?
I'm not sure what special events are planned. I hope there will be something. That's not lost on me. Really, all of the training that we have here on Star City, sometimes I have to pinch myself thinking, wow, this is the same spot where the very first human trained to go to space. Yuri Gagarin was training and working here as well, and that is really an incredible experience that now I'm going through all of that in exact same location. As you pointed out, it should be the last launch on that launch pad from which he launched. So again, I am very honored and humbled to be experiencing that.
Jessica, thanks for your time. Have a great flight, and I look forward to talking to you guys in orbit.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope you can all stay safe there in Florida.
Good morning, Jessica. This is Gary Robbins at the Union Tribune.
Good morning, Gary. It's great to talk to you again.
Yeah, it's been a while. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Good. I know time is short, so I'll get right to it. I've interviewed a dozen or more astronauts over the years, and more than a few of them have said that experiencing space travel profoundly changed how they thought about the world and about people. I've been wondering, have you been thinking about this, that this mission may change you in pretty profound ways?
I have given that a lot of thought. I think Frank White described it best as the overview effect, and really how that affects you in two main ways. First of all, in appreciating how fragile and how special our one home planet Earth is, seeing that very thin layer of the atmosphere, seeing the oceans, seeing all the landforms. I am quite an avid environmentalist, and of course, a lot of that goes back to my time at Scripps Institution of Oceanography in San Diego and understanding the remarkable biodiversity that we have here on our home planet. The second factor is understanding how insignificant really we are as a human species and our role in the solar system and in the universe. I think that it really does shift your perspective as a human, and I'm very much looking forward to experiencing that for myself.
I read in a newspaper headline recently, a newspaper recently described you as being fearless, and I was wondering whether that's how you think of yourself.
I'm not sure if I think of myself that way. I think some healthy fear is usually a good thing. That's what the psychologists will say. But I think for us as astronauts, we really rely on our training so much in any situation that you might be described or you might consider to be risky. And so when we rely on that training, we go back to those procedures, everything that we've performed again and again and again. And that really helps us do what needs to be done in any dangerous or risky situation to get us through that so that we can be separate from then that kind of emotional experience.
You're going to be working on scores of scientific experiments on space station. Could you tell me about one that holds special appeal for you?
Yeah, well, as a physiologist, as you know, my background is looking at the physiology of animals in extreme environments, and now I'll be the animal in an extreme environment. And one of the big areas of research on the space station is understanding how spaceflight and their microgravity environment affect the human body. So there are some really interesting studies right now that I'll be a part of. One of that is looking at the health of our blood vessels. So we've actually seen on some recent experiments and recent missions that the blood vessel walls, so the walls of our arteries, are actually getting stiffer and thicker in space. In a 6-month mission, it's actually equivalent to about 20 years of aging here on the Earth. So a really important process to understand in terms of our health as astronauts, and also in the bigger picture for making sure that we can get astronauts to our destinations for longer duration missions when we return to the moon and when we go back to Mars as well.
Are you ready for the changes it's going to make in your body? I've seen so many photos over the years of the puffiness in the face of astronauts who have been up there for a while.
Yeah, if that's just a normal part of the process, your body does adapt. It is pretty remarkable how resilient the human body is and how it can get used to whatever situation we throw at it. You know, the nice thing is that we have decades of research now looking at things like bone loss, bone density loss, and muscle atrophy, and we're quite good at counteracting those deleterious effects just using the amazing exercise equipment that we have on board the space station. So we're ready. We are pretty fit and healthy when we launch, and the goal is to maintain our fitness and health all throughout the mission.
Jessica, is there another experiment that really appeals to you? I know there are many, but we're trying to make it relatable for people.
Yeah, one of the really interesting things that we have up there that just launched recently, actually, is called the Bio Fabrication Facility. So this is sort of a technology demonstration, and the goal is to be able to one day make bioartificial tissues and organs in space and be able to use them for organ transplant procedures down here on Earth. So one of the problems, of course, when you're thinking about organ transplants, we're always at a deficit of available organs for patients that need them. And when people have looked at trying to grow and these types of tissues and organs on the ground, one of the things that they have to do is put a support structure in place, and that often has deleterious effects to the tissues themselves. So the hypothesis is that in the microgravity environment, you won't need these support structures, and that will enable us to grow tissues and eventually organs in space that could be used for patients down on Earth. So pretty cutting edge stuff. I'm pretty excited to be involved with those experiments and that technology demonstration.
space station for 6 months, is it possible to get homesick even though you can just look out the window at the Earth?
Yeah, I think that is really dependent on the individual. I think, especially since it's my first mission, that I will really be in awe for a good portion of the mission and it will go by quite quickly. But of course, we'll miss the things that we have at home. We'll miss our family, our friends, our loved ones. I think for me, one of the things that I'll miss the most is really nature. As you know, I like to spend most of my free time in nature, hiking, skiing, and outside. And so to not have any of those plants and trees and the fresh air and water around you, I think is something that should probably affect me quite profoundly. I've heard it described before as you have this amazing window seeing all the beauty on the planet, but it's almost ironic in that you can see all of the beauty, but you can't actually experience or touch any of it.
My last question is, have you been laying awake at night thinking about the mission, or have you been sleeping? I've been wondering if you've just kind of been laying there in bed thinking.
Well, I often say that I'm a professional sleeper. I am very good at sleeping, and sleep is very important to me. So far, my sleep hasn't been affected, but we'll see what happens as the mission gets a little bit closer.
Okay. Anything that you would want to add that I haven't asked you about? I know time is short.
Well, I would just like to say hello to everybody in San Diego and thank you to everybody there. My graduate work at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography was really formative to my career as a physiologist and to my eventual career here as an astronaut. I had amazing mentors there. I had amazing experiences living and working right there on the Pacific Ocean. You can't beat it. So thank you. I'm very, very excited to share this mission with everybody down in San Diego and really in the whole planet.
Godspeed, Jessica.
Thanks, Gary. Great talking to you.